Blessings, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dane, your host. I hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. About a week or so ago, I did a video in which I talked about with y'all, I discussed what I think is, in my opinion, to be the best album run of all time. Take a look at that if you'd like. And towards the end of that video, I also said that at some point I would like to talk about my favorite album runs of all time. So starting today, I'm going to do a little mini-series, 20 videos in all, to talk about my 20 favorite album runs of all time, counting backward from 20 to number 1. And so that means that per video, each video will only talk about one album run, so one at a time. I'd like to do one per day, but because of my schedule, that may not be possible. At worst, maybe every other day. So today, number 20, I'm going to talk about punk. If you've been watching this channel, you know I'm not a big fan of punk rock. But if you've also been watching this channel, you know that my favorite punk band is The Damned. So today's the day to talk about The Damned. First go at it. The Damned comes in at number 20 with respect to favorite album runs of all time. Let's go ahead and talk about the debut. This is a dynamite debut. One of the best debuts in all rock history, if you ask me. A lot of cool hits on this song. Neat, neat, neat. One of my favorite songs right off the bat. I would say pure punk at its best in so many ways. Then you get the wonderful Fan Club. More a combination of punk and pop. I love it though. It's a wonderful song. And then you get I Fall. Not as cool as the first two tracks, but this is I think, an underrated gem. Is it a masterpiece? No. Is it legendary like the two songs that come before? No, but it is quite good. Next is another underrated song, Born to Kill. Love this song as well. Sometimes I'll skip the first two songs so I can jump right into 3 and 4. Not because I'm sick and 1 and 2 are overplayed for me or in general, just because to kind of mix things up. And sometimes I like to rearrange tracks and just play them in different orders, kind of freshens things up. So I Fall and Born to Kill I do like quite a bit. Next is the fun Stab Your Back, Stab Your Back, Stab Your Back, written by Rat Scabies. Wonderful tune. More pop than it is punk. Perhaps a punk sensibility more than anything else with respect to punk. Then you have the slow but quite good Field of Pain. David Vanian singing in a more less upbeat way, the dark vocals, the deep vocals, that lends a certain darkness since the subject matter is about feeling the pain. And then you get the wonderful hit New Rose, great punk song all around. Then you get the underrated Fish, perhaps my least favorite song on the album, but I do like it. Then you get the wonderful See Her Tonight. And I don't think enough people talk about this song, even amongst, from what I gather, Damned fans. But anyway, I like See Her Tonight. One of the two, in the same vein, doesn't get enough discussion, I think, but I think it's a good song. So Messed Up and I Feel Alright are the closing tracks. And boy, what a way to go out on the album on a high note, a superior high note. So Messed Up is fantastic. Then you get the Stooges cover, I Feel Alright. Great. Again, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I'm a big fan of opening an album strong and then closing said album strong as well. It's wonderful if you get an album that has hit after hit after hit, or if they're not hits, deep cuts and hits, or whatever combination of songs that are just dynamite back to back to back, as many as you can. An album that's great from start to finish, if you can. It doesn't always happen. The odds are against it, but for me, this album is great from start to finish. But obviously, from what I've said so far, some songs are stronger than others. My favorite songs on here are Neat, 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 Fan Club, Stab Your Back, Feel the Pain, New Rose, So Messed Up, and I Feel Alright. And then close to that, almost in the same realm, would be Born to Kill. So the debut album is dynamite. Follow-up album, Sophomore Effort, Music for Pleasure. Not as good as the debut. Not as good as the debut, but I still like this album. This I would rate a masterpiece. It is for me. This I would say is great. In between. Let me correct myself. Between great and very good. You get the wonderful Problem Child to start us off. Don't Cry Wolf, I think, is underrated. One Way Love, underrated as well. Politics is okay. Stretch Your Case is quite good, even though it's under 2 minutes, 1 minute and 50 seconds. Idiot Box, almost 5 minutes. Check this song out if you're not familiar with it. I think it's fantastic. You Take My Money, 2 minutes, cool song. We've all been there, right? Alone, underrated gem if you ask me. Your Eyes, quite good, written by Vanian and James. Quite a good song, as I said. And then you get Creep, in parentheses, You Can't Fool Me. Perhaps the weakest track on the album, perhaps. But I do like it. It's okay. It's not wonderful. You get You Know. It's a good song, not great. You get the cover tune, Help from the Beatles. It's okay. You don't really need it on the album. But if you know The Damned, like I do, you know that they're big on doing covers. And most of their covers you can't find on their main discography. A few, not many. Like they do some Deep Purple stuff. It's crazy. Look for that stuff if you can. I'm still trying to track down some stuff on MP3 format. Sick of Being Sick, my favorite song on this album. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Quirky, fun song, despite its song title. And then here's where The Damned begins to do the silliness. But it's a good kind of silliness, and that is Sing Along with Scabies, 57 seconds. So yes, I rate this pretty high. As I said, music for pleasure, nice abstract art on the cover. Next, you get Machine Gun Etiquette, the third album from the band. Has a Desolation Boulevard look to it. Perhaps that's intentional. I'll get to that in a minute. I love this album. This is a much closer album with respect to how good it is to the first album than it is the second. There's a little falling off between the first and the second. As I said, I love the first album. I like the second album quite a bit, but this is much better than the second album, and it's almost as good or equal to. Still haven't, the jury's still out. The jury is still out on that with respect to me, but it's close or equal to the first album. There may be a day where it's even better. Here's why. The poppy, punkish love song. Then you get the title track. Love this title track song. Then you get I Just Can't Be Happy Today, upbeat like love song, but yet you kind of have unlike love song, you have kind of a downer of a theme here or story. Melody Lee, I think, is underrated. Anti-Pope is underrated. Excuse me. These Hands is an okay track. Plan 9, Channel 7, a lot of damn fans rate this as one of their favorite, if not top 5. I'm not sure about me, but I do like the song. Actually, I love the song. Then you get Noise, 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 perhaps trying to recapture the shtick, if you will, of Neat, 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 perhaps. But it's its own song. Looking at You is quite good. Then you get Liar. Not a bad song, not great either. Then you get the wonderful Smash It Up Part 1 and Smash It Up Part 2. One of the main reasons to have this album. Then you get the cover Ballroom Blitz, hence perhaps the Desolation Boulevard look on the back here. You get the song Suicide. Then you get the wonderful silliness that often will conclude a Damned album, and that is Rabbit Over You. I'm just gonna rabbit over you. Like kind of like ballroom, kind of lounge act, kind of making fun of that, but it's a good song. And then you get the cover song of White Rabbit, an extended version of that. 16 tracks in all. I love this album. Next, you get a change in gears for the band. This album, the fourth album called The Black Album, wonderful album cover. Gothic on the back as well. Begins here. You have some straightforward rock. You have some psychedelic rock kind of thing. Of course, you have the punk stuff going on, and the pop punk or punk pop, and then then they introduce some prog here. And what they've done here is they've utilized more than ever David Vanian's deep register to make it dark and moody and gothic. Okay? And it works so well. And I said there's a bit of prog here, and that's because of the song Curtain Call, which on CD ends the album, but if you had this on vinyl, it was all of side 3. It takes up all of side 3. They had to rearrange it here for whatever reason. Regardless, Wait for the Blackout. What a great hit. And keep in mind, when I say hit, it may not have been released as a single, but fans of the band, whatever that band may be, it was a hit for them. So a go-to song. Lively Arts, I think, is underrated. Silly Kids Games is silly, but it's a cool song. Drinking About My Baby, more silliness, but a cool song nonetheless. Twisted Nerve doesn't get enough praise, I think. Hit or miss as well. Then you get the wonderful Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Goes great with the gothic theme of the novel. Theme of the album. Sick of This and That, perhaps. Sick of Being Sick, part 2 or 3. Part 3, because you got... I'm thinking of Smash It Up. Sick of Being Sick from the sophomore effort here. Perhaps what I'm trying to say is perhaps they're kind of running with, hey, we're tired. And that's part of the punk shtick, right? Complaining about, the world in the hopes of making it a better place. So History of the World Part 1 is next. There's often, when I talk about the Damned amongst friends and fans who love the Damned as much as I do, they will often cite History of the World Part 1 alongside Plan 9, Channel 7 as 2 of their favorite songs. So, and I agree, this is a wonderful song. Then you get 13th Floor Vendetta, which I think is an underrated gem. Therapy is a great song, I think. And then my favorite song, this is very cliched, but yes, my favorite song on here is Curtain Call, because you have these various textures, you have these various genres. The song is in parts where this part sounds proggy, this sounds very rock and straightforward, this part sounds punk or pop punk, so great song. And then the live versions often split up sometimes, part 1 and part 2. And when David Vanian comes back, from some of the instrumental bits, and he comes back to sing, it's fabulous. What a great album. Of course, spoofing on the Beatles, the White Album, the Black Album, before Prince did his Black Album. Okay, and Metallica. All right. Now, the 5th album in this run is another shift. So we go from the first 3 albums, which is what you expect from the Damned, or so you thought, with, kind of that, not kind of, but the punk, the expectation of what a punk rock album should sound like in this time period. And then, of course, with the Black Album, there's that shift, as I mentioned, more gothic. And then with the next album, Strawberries, it's more upbeat. It's more polished. It's new wave. It's silliness. And like some of the albums before, the last song on the album is silliness. In this case, Torture Me, right? It's silly, but it's great at the same time. So I forget the story, how they got the title for this album. Vanian was upset about something. And he said, well, that's going to go over like Strawberries and Pigs or something like that. So Pigs and Strawberries. So hence the album cover, a cute little animal on the cover. I love animals. And he's even cuter on the back. Or she. But you have, right off the bat, 2 great songs, Ignite and Generals. Then you get Stranger on the Towns, which is a little bit more pop-oriented. The whole album is really more pop-oriented. Dozen Girls, quite cool. Then you have the song The Dog, which I'm not sure if this is true, but I've heard, and I can't remember who told me this. I want to say it was a girl I dated. I don't remember, but supposedly this song, the idea came from Vanian after having read Interview with a Vampire, because of the character Claudia, I think. Don't quote me on that. Then you have Gun Fury of Riot Forces, cool song. The Pleasure and the Pain is one of the best songs on this album. Life Goes On is cool. I would say this is a just above average song, but it's cool nonetheless. I do like it, is what I'm saying. Bad Time for Bonds is a pun on Bedtime for Bonzo, I think, the Ronald Reagan movie from the 40s or 50s, black and white. Under the Floor Again, I think, is an underrated gem. Don't Bother Me, good song, not great song. And then this is the bonus track version. You get Disguise, Citadel Zombies, Take That, Mine's a Large One, Landlord, and then Torture Me. Those are all good songs. Now, I also remember someone telling me that Robert Fripp from King Crimson came in the studio to play with them on this album, but the song never made it. Can't remember the name of the song, but you can get it now on something. I don't know what that is. Is the song called... I can't remember. So, but yeah, I like this album, even though it's a shift from what they've done before, including the Gothic record. So, and I remember a friend of mine texted me one day because he was starting to explore the Damned for the first time, and he loved the first 3 albums. He loved the Black Album, and then he got to this, and he's like, boy, what's going on with the... But then he warmed up to it, because I didn't like this as much as I do now. When I first heard it, I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it. I listen to this now. I love this album. So it's different, but I do like it. So The Damned, Strawberries is next. Next is the album which got me into The Damned because my sister had this on vinyl, and we're talking about this wonderful album called Phantasmagoria with this lovely young woman on the cover. She is very attractive, very gothic, right? Beautiful eyes, just stunning all around. But speaking of stunning, this album is a masterpiece, if you ask me, and this is another shift for the band. It's a return in many ways to the gothicness that is the Black Album, because you have that deep voice of Vanyan returning in spades, like on the Black Album, definitely less upbeat than Strawberries. But you have some saxophone on here, and it works. And you have a silly song like Grimly Fiendish because of the voiceover of like a Snidely Whiplash type character, kind of like a Hanna-Barbera kind of character thing. But boy, Street of Dreams is amazing. It's got some pop sensibilities to it here, but it's pop, it's punk, and it's goth or gothic. Shadow of Love and Street of Dreams are, to me, or to Damned fans, arguably the 2 hits off the album. There's more to come hit-wise. There'll Come a Day is good. Sanctum Sanctorum is wonderful. Is It a Dream is quite good. Grimly Fiendish, as I mentioned, a hit off the album. Edward the Bear, I think, was a hit, if not a single, definitely. I think it was an MCA single, but regardless, yes or no, definitely a hit among us Damned fans. The Eighth Day, probably my least favorite song, but I do like it. And then The Wonderful Trojans, much different from Trojans is much different from everything else on the album, but yet it still works. What a great album. The album that launched me into my interest of pursuing this band, and I'm so glad I did, thanks to my sister. And then finally, another shift into the band. This album, the band was forced into the studio because of contractual obligations, and is the album called Anything. And this is essentially a pop record for the band, but I like it. It's very good. You have the title track, which is wonderful. You have Alone Again, or the cover song that UFO also did as a cover song. And, of course, there's a relationship between this band and UFO because of Paul Gray. The Portrait is underrated, I think. Restless is quite good. I love the next song, In Dulce Decorum. Gigolo, 6 minutes and 2 seconds. Not an epic, but has an epic feel to it. I love the song as well. The Girl Goes Down. Wow, what a great song. Tightrope Walk. Wonderful. And then the fun, upbeat Psychomania. Get up and dance kind of thing. Pop record, but it works. It works. And then there's the comeback. The band gets back together. Different lineup. And I can't remember the first album from the reunion, but the second album after in the reunion, I think, is Grave Disorder. That's a comeback album for me. I like that a lot. But this is the run. It's disrupted by the next album. So these 7 albums, to me, are dynamite. I love this run. So there you have it, number 20, The Damned. 7 albums, the first 7 albums in their discography. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the 19th favorite album run from yours truly. Take care.